Sherry Levitt, her 19-year-old daughter Suzanne Streeter, and Susie's friend Stacey McCall were all at a graduation party for the two young women in their Missouri town one day, early June 1992. So it's been a hot minute since this happened. And the next day, they were gone. All their personal possessions had been left behind. We're talking purses, wallets, car keys, and there was no signs of a struggle. Now, over the years, authorities have followed up on not one, not two, but several leads, and all have either been discredited or found to be inconclusive. So the police are still treating this as an abduction, but they don't know what happened to the women, they don't know where they went, they don't have any new leads, and it's been over 30 years. In the year 1980, 28-year-old John Reed left his hometown of Twin Cities, California and traveled to Brazil. He was hoping to find the lost city of Akakor, which is an ancient underground civilization which had supposedly remained undiscovered in the Amazonian jungles for thousands of years. And Reed had learned about the city in a book called, fittingly, The Chronicle of Akakor. The author, Carl Brugger, had written it after learning about Akakor from a Brazilian jungle guide named Tatunka Nara, who claimed he had once been chief of a tribe which ruled the city 3,000 years ago. He said he was born in the jungle near the border with Peru. He even served as a guide for an elaborate expedition mounted by Jacques Cousteau. Yeah, the famous French explorer scientist. Tatunka lived in the village of Barcelos and ran a lucrative business leading tourists into the jungle to search for Akakor. And few who went into the wilds with Tatunka believed the story, but it just added another layer of exotic fun to the adventure of a lifetime. But for folks like John, this tale touched deeper. It was more, I need this. So Reed decided to accompany Tatunka on one of these expeditions. He left his dog tags and return plane ticket in his hotel room, but he never came back for them. Now, Tatunka always claimed that Reed ran off and hid in the jungle after they decided to return to Barcelos. However, Reed was not the only person to disappear under suspicious circumstances in Tatunka's company. During the 1980s, a Swiss man named Herbert Warner and a Swedish woman named Christine Huser would also mysteriously vanish during a Tatunka expedition. Oh, by the way, Herbert's jawbone was later found. In addition, Carl Brugger would also meet his end too soon on a Rios street in 1984. There's a lot of things here. Authorities have always believed that Gunther Hawk was responsible for the disappearances of everybody, and the meeting an end too soon that I just mentioned, that might have seemed like it didn't make sense, but there's never been enough evidence to charge him. Oh, if you're wondering who Gunther Hawk is, he's Tatunka. Yeah, the police have his birth certificate and other personal records. A police expert studied photographs of Hawk from his early teens to early 20s and of the man who calls himself Tatunka, and they're like, oh yeah, this is the same guy. So police records show that he was a sailor in 1966 and then he jumped ship in Venezuela, and he claimed to be, whoa, all sorts of different things, and a psychiatrist was like, yeah, he's schizophrenic. And then he was returned to West Germany, where he was jailed for 3 months for failing to support his family, and then a couple years later he sailed to Brazil, again jumped ship, and then disappeared, and Tatunka, the identity, emerged. So, going back to our first disappearance today of John, who went poof without a sight. His sister Sandy actually traveled to the Amazon around 1990 with a German filmmaker and a reporter to try and get some answers for herself about John going poof. Well, obviously it's 2024 and she doesn't have answers, which is mind-boggling. So you probably know this next name, you probably know it well, Shelly Miscavige. She married her husband David in 1982, and they rose together in the Church of Scientology as members of an elite group called the Commodore's Messenger Organization. And the last time Shelly was seen in public was at her father's funeral in 2007. 6 years after her last public appearance, actress Leah Remini left the church, so it was like 2013 I believe, and she filed a missing persons report with the LA Police Department. And it's thanks to Leah that we're all just like, hey, where did Shelly go? What happened? Now, after an investigation, the LAPD was like, oh yeah, Shelly's alive, she's safe, we're not gonna pursue this. The church denied she disappeared. They said, oh, she's fine. Okay, but where is she? Why hasn't she said it herself? Well, in 2022, after hearing about an investigation into now retired LAPD Captain Corey Palka about alerting others of confidential police investigations, Leah Remini to the rescue once again. She revealed photographs of Corey Palka accepting a $20,000 check from Scientology for LAPD charities, and one of a Scientology information kiosk located in the LAPD Hollywood Division station. So, while speaking with Corey originally, Leah noticed a letter of thanks to him from Scientology with an invitation to lunch. So, I don't know, folks. You tell me. There's some former Scientology members that have said that they believe Shelly is being held against her will at a compound, the Scientologist Church of Spiritual Technology Corporation over in California. But other than that, to this day, We have no sign of her, we have no sign where she is, and I would like answers before I also go poof. In May of the year 2000, New York-based travel writers Claudia Kers and Tanya Grossinger were traveling to Havana, Cuba on a business trip, but sadly found out that the trip was suddenly cancelled during their layover in Jamaica. And they're like, you know what? This sucks, but it's not the end of the world. We're gonna make the most of it. So Claudia got to a resort and was like, hey, I'm gonna make some friends. She made friends with one Anthony Grant, who was one of the resort's bartenders. She was a big fan of reggae music, and Anthony was like, yeah, I'll take you to a nearby club. Let's have a good time. So Tanya, on the other hand, she booked a flight home and she's like, you know what, Claudia, you have fun. I'll see you back in New York. Like, I just want to go home and probably just go to bed. Which, valid. Well, here's the thing. A lifeguard was reportedly the last person to see Claudia alive the next afternoon. She was walking on a local beach away from the resort. And fast forward, June 2nd. Claudia's parents were notified because she hadn't shown up for work in New York, so they contacted the resort in Jamaica. Now, by this point, hotel maids had reported Claudia missing because, oh hey, she hadn't slept in her bed for several days, but all of her belongings were still in her room. Her passport, credit card, cell phone, almost $200 in cash. They were all in the hotel safe just where she left them. Now, Claudia's mom, Mary, told the press that Claudia was a very organized person, and had she planned any sort of excursion or variance in her trip, she would have brought everything with her. So as soon as they found out their daughter was missing, Claudia's parents were on the next plane to Jamaica. But their attempts to find out what happened to their daughter hit one mysterious end after another. Let's start with the resort where Claudia was staying. So as a security precaution, the license plates of all vehicles entering and leaving the resort were allegedly carefully recorded in a logbook. Conveniently, the logbook for the month that Claudia was, there and going poof, that logbook was also poof. Then a videotape from a surveillance camera mounted near Claudia's room had been recorded over. And finally, the room where Claudia stayed was cleared by housekeeping and hotel security before it could be processed for clues. I don't know, folks, I'm getting a lot of red flags here. So frustrated by all of this, Claudia's parents brought in the FBI because they were like, hey, we need help, and also an American search and rescue team. So according to a canine handler on the case, his dog tracked Claudia's scent to the home of Anthony Grant, that bartender I mentioned earlier. So at Anthony's home, the dog got a hit on a pair of boots, a pair of gloves, and a kitchen weapon. Oh, and it found Claudia's scent in the trunk and back seat of Anthony's car. Now, he was investigated, polygraphed, but the results were inconclusive. The FBI was like, yeah, we interviewed him for like weeks, but we don't consider him a suspect. And to this day, nobody knows where Claudia went, and I still have questions.
Cody Dial, 2014. Cody Roman Dial, the son of famed explorer and scientist Roman Dial, grew up surrounded by adventure. Raised in Alaska, Cody's life was steeped in wilderness, survival, and exploration from an early age. By the time he was 27, he had already accompanied his father on treks through some of the world's most remote landscapes and developed an impressive resume as both a biologist and an adventurer. So far, so good. But here's where things get crazy. Even the most experienced explorers are not immune to the perils of the unknown. In July 2014, Cody set off for Costa Rica's Corcovado National Park, a sprawling wilderness on the Osa Peninsula known for its biodiversity and uncharted trails. A perfect place for an explorer, so you'd think. His plan was to traverse the park using unofficial routes rarely attempted by other hikers. However, Corcovado is also infamous for its dangerous terrains, venomous wildlife, and illicit activities like gold mining and illicit smuggling. Cody's family grew concerned, of course, when he missed his scheduled check-in, triggering this massive search effort that lasted months. Teams combed the jungle using helicopters, local guides, and even indigenous trackers, but the dense canopy and the treacherous conditions made progress slow. In 2016, remains believed to be Cody's were found in a remote area of the park. While investigators concluded that he likely succumbed to an accident, questions still linger. Why did an experienced outdoorsman like Cody venture into such a dangerous zone, and why did he do it alone? Did he encounter something or someone that led to his demise? His disappearance remains one of the most haunting mysteries in modern exploration. A grim reminder of how even seasoned adventurers can meet tragedy in the wild. Samantha Sayers, 2018. Samantha Sayers was a 28-year-old outdoor enthusiast, and she was no stranger to solo hiking. Her love for nature had led her to explore many trails in Washington state, pushing herself to tackle more challenging terrains. On August 1st, 2018, Samantha embarked on a solo hike up Vesper Peak in the North Cascades, a stunning but demanding trail known for its breathtaking views and steep ascents. Equipped with proper gear and of course experience, Samantha seemed well prepared for this journey. She checked in with her boyfriend before starting the hike, assuring him that she would return by evening. Now when she didn't come back, her family and friends raised the alarm. What followed was one one of the largest search and rescue operations in the region's history. Over 120 volunteers, helicopters, drones, even tracking dogs all combed the rugged landscape for weeks. Yet despite the massive effort, no trace of Samantha was ever found. The mystery deepened when seasoned hikers reported no signs of accident or foul play. So could she have strayed off the trail into the vast wilderness, or did she encounter an unexpected danger? Kramers and Lisan Froon, 2014. In April 2014, two Dutch women, Kramers and Lisan Froon, both embarked on what they thought would be a short, scenic hike along the El Pianista Trail near Boquete, Panama. Now, the 21 and 22-year-old friends were adventurous and excited to explore the natural beauty of Central America. So far, this sounds like an ideal trip for an explorer. The trail, while popular among tourists, is surrounded by dense jungle that quickly becomes treacherous if hikers venture off that path even a little bit. So when the women failed to return from their trip, a search effort was launched. For weeks, nothing was found until a local woman discovered their backpack in a riverbed. Inside the bag were their phones, a camera, and personal items, all still intact. Investigators found chilling details. Their phones showed desperate attempts to call emergency numbers, while the camera contained eerie photos taken at night. Some of the jungle and others of their belongings all arranged on rocks. Just eerie photos to find after this. Months later, scattered remains, including a pelvic bone and a boot with a foot still inside, were found deep in the forest. Theories range from an accidental fall to something more sinister, such as foul play. Why did they leave the trail, and what prompted the cryptic photos? Their disappearance remains a chilling enigma, a stark warning really of how quickly a simple hike can turn into this life-threatening ordeal. Matt Green, 2014. Matt Green, a 39-year-old math teacher and avid outdoorsman, disappeared in the Sierra Nevada mountains in July 2014. He was known for his love of nature and solitude, and Matt had embarked on a solo road trip to explore California's stunning landscapes. He spent his days hiking, climbing, and photographing the region's breathtaking scenery. All things normal so far. Matt's car was found parked near Mammoth Lakes, a popular destination for outdoor enthusiasts. He had reportedly planned to hike several trails in the area, but failed to check in with friends as expected. When he was reported missing, search and rescue teams began an extensive operation. The Sierra Nevada, with its rugged peaks, hidden valleys, and unpredictable weather, posed significant challenges, of course. Now, despite weeks of searching, including the use of helicopters and scent tracking dogs, no trace of Matt was ever found. Did he venture too far off the trail, or did an unexpected event lead to his disappearance? It's hard to say. Without any clues, Matt's fate still remains a mystery, a haunting reminder of how vast and unforgiving the wilderness will always be. Esther Dingley, 2020. Esther Dingley, a 37-year-old British adventurer, disappeared in November 2020 while hiking the Pyrenees Mountains. Traveling through Europe in a camper van with her partner, Dan, Esther had documented her work for nature and exploration all on social media, of course inspiring many with her journey. Her final trek took her to the Pic de Sauvegarde, a picturesque peak straddling the border between France and Spain. Quite an ideal exploration, if you ask me, until she sent her last message from the summit, sharing her excitement and joy, but when she failed to return afterwards, a large search operation was launched involving French and Spanish authorities. Helicopters, ground teams, you name it, everyone was looking, and nothing. Months later, though, Esther's belongings and partial remains were eventually discovered. Investigators believe she may have slipped and fallen, but the exact circumstances still remain uncertain. Her story is a reminder of the risks even experienced adventurers face in the wild. These expanded accounts provide a more comprehensive look into the risks and mysteries that come with exploring the unknown. Each case here is a testament to the allure and danger of seeking adventure in the modern world. Even if you're posting on social media, things can still go south, regardless of how much support and attention you have. The disappearance of Marne Shepard. A mountaineer and former scientist is one of the more intriguing cases in recent years. Shepard, who is a 53-year-old from New Zealand, went missing in late 2020, almost 2 decades after a previous incident in 2003 in the same mountain range. How bizarre is that? There's got to be some mystery here. Known for her resilience, she had survived a perilous situation during her earlier disappearance in the Southern Alps, where she and her hiking companion, Sonia Rendell, had been lost for 8 days. That's longer than a week. That is insane. Despite difficult conditions, they were found safe, thankfully, which only added to her reputation as a capable mountaineer. That is, until 2020, when Shepard went missing once more. After tweeting in November that she was, quote, heading for the mountains, end quote, there was little sign of her, and she was officially reported missing on January 2021. Authorities focused their search on the same area where she had been found back in 2003, which was Arthur's Pass National Park, a remote and rugged part of New Zealand's South Island. But as of now, no new evidence has been found regarding her whereabouts. Marne Shepard's case raises many questions. Was she prepared for the harsh conditions that she might face in the mountains? Was she underprepared? Was something different about this expedition that led her to her vanishing? Or could she have just encountered some unforeseen danger? Many options here. Given her experience and history with the area, the mystery surrounding her disappearance continues to captivate those who follow such stories. The disappearance of Brian Shaffer, 2006. Brian Shaffer, a 27-year-old medical student with a promising future, decided to kick off spring with a night out in Columbus, Ohio. Alongside friends, he visited the Ugly Tuna Saloona, great name, a bustling bar known for its lively crowd. Now, security footage captured Brian entering the bar, but mysteriously, he never left. When friends realized that he had vanished, they reported it, sparking extensive searches. Authorities combed through nearby alleys, rooftops, and underground tunnels, you name it, but no trace of him was found. Now, strangely, Brian's phone continued to ring for days, though no one ever answered. How could someone disappear without a trace in such a crowded public space? That's the haunting part. Did he somehow slip out unnoticed, or was something far darker at play? The mystery of Brian Shaffer's disappearance remains one of the most puzzling, unsolved cases to this day. Rico Harris and the Rest Stop Mystery, 2014. Rico Harris, 37, a former Harlem Globetrotter with a towering presence and of course a bright future, seemed ready to turn his life around. He set out on a road trip from Los Angeles to Seattle, eager to begin this fresh new chapter. Now, during his journey, Rico stopped at a rural California rest stop where surveillance cameras capture him entering a convenience store, but he never returned to his car. Days later, his vehicle was found abandoned and his personal belongings were still inside, sparking both alarm and confusion. Authorities launched extensive searches across the desolate area, yet no trace of Rico was ever found. Did this charismatic athlete choose to vanish, or was he caught up in something sinister along the lonely highways? Tara Grinstead, 2005. While Tara Grinstead went missing in 2005, her case gained major attention in the years following. The 30-year-old high school teacher from Osceola, Georgia, disappeared after spending the evening with friends. Now, the next day, Tara's car was found in the driveway of her home, but there were no signs of a struggle whatsoever. Police later found a shopping list and other personal items, including a missing cell phone. So what really happened to Tara? Was she taken, or did she leave her life behind for reasons that no one knows? Tara's case remained unsolved for many years until recent investigations led to new leads and the possible involvement of somebody close to her. The podcast Up and Vanished is also an amazing time, and it goes deep into this case. If you want to know more and you have 30 hours to kill, go check that one out. Brandon Lawson, 2013. Brandon Lawson was a 26-year-old from San Angelo, Texas, and he vanished on August 9th, 2013, of course under mysterious circumstances. His disappearance remains one of the most perplexing cases in the United States to this day. The sequence of events leading to his disappearance is honestly chilling. Brandon had been out late at night, and around 12:30 a.m. he called his brother, Kyle Lawson, saying that he had run out of gas while driving on this deserted road near Bront, Texas. Now, Brandon told Kyle that he was waiting for help, but shortly after, the call abruptly ended. During the call, Brandon seemed disoriented, and his last words were quite cryptic and unsettling. This call was the last time that anybody ever heard from him. When Brandon's truck was found abandoned by the side of the road, it was near this rural intersection, but there was no sign of him. His cell phone and wallet were left behind in the truck, raising the question of what could have happened in such a desolate area. That's a dark thought, to think of what happened to somebody, especially like your brother. I couldn't imagine having this call with my brother, and then that's the last time I talked to him. That's a nightmare. Extensive searches turned up nothing, and the case quickly grew more mysterious, with the oddity of Brandon's phone call adding to the intrigue. Did he fall victim to foul play, or did he have a medical emergency that eventually led to his disappearance? No one knows. Theories are just around. Nobody knows. Some believe Brandon may have gotten out of his truck, becoming disoriented or possibly injured, and wandered off into the surrounding fields. Others speculate that he could have been involved in some type of altercation, or perhaps, maybe, he was taken by somebody. However, no solid evidence supports any of these theories, and the case remains open and very confusing. Hannah Upp, 2017. Hannah Upp's mysterious disappearances, spanning from 2008 to 2017, have baffled both the public and authorities. Upp was a young teacher who experienced numerous episodes of this dissociative fugue, where she would lose memory of her identity and then embark on a journey without realizing it, right? This fugue state, she would end up somewhere and have no idea how she got there. Pretty terrifying to think of. Her first disappearance in 2008 saw her vanish in New York City, only to be found weeks later in a waterway. She had no recollection of the events leading up to there. Then in 2013, she disappeared again, this time in Maryland, and this time briefly vanishing for 2 days, only to be found in a creek, disoriented but physically unharmed. By 2017, after moving to St. Thomas in the US Virgin Islands, she disappeared again, seemingly drawn to the ocean in again this fugue state, following the devastation of Hurricane Irma. Her belongings were found abandoned and she was never seen again, despite numerous searches. Eric Rios, 2015. Eric Rios' mysterious disappearance on September 1st, 2015 still captivates the public and has left his family and authorities searching constantly for answers. Give them something. Right now it's just a total mystery. The 24-year-old man from Charlotte, North Carolina, Eric went to this local convenience store to buy snacks. Something pretty casual, but he never returned home. His family became concerned when they couldn't reach him on his phone, and social media activity also stopped abruptly. That's the scary part. When the social media doesn't check out or help out the investigation, that's when things get harder to find. When they checked the surveillance footage from the store, it revealed something quite eerie. Eric was seen entering but never leaving. This peculiar detail raised more questions than answers. What happened to Eric in just those few minutes after he walked into the store? What could have possibly happened in such a short time frame? Did he encounter someone inside who did some harm to him? Could a robbery have turned violent? Or was it possible that Eric left on his own volition, deciding to walk away from everything for reasons that nobody knows? Despite the growing investigation and attempts to retrace his steps, still no substantial leads have been emerged. Now, searches for Eric were conducted around Charlotte and in areas where he could have traveled after the fact, but his whereabouts still remain a mystery. His family, desperate for answers, has shared their story in the hopes that someone might know anything, but the eerie nature of this case, someone vanishing from a public space with no clear explanation, this raises unsettling possibilities. It makes you scared to go places yourself. Could Eric have been abducted? Was he forced into something, or did he simply vanish on his own accord? His family continues to hold out hope that they will find closure at some point, but for now, they have to hold on a little longer. The mystery surrounding Eric's disappearance still endures.
Number 10 is Mount Everest. It's number 10 because of how well known it is, and obviously it comes as no surprise that it'd even be on this list. Everest is the tallest mountain on Earth, and its climate is one of immense cold and atmospheric pressure changes. This creates what's called the death zone on the uppermost point of the mountain, where oxygen pressure is no longer sufficient to humans. This is around the 26,000 foot point of the mountain. But yet, the challenge and prowess of the climb have drawn mountaineers for centuries. The first recorded deaths are believed to be in 1717, but if we're being realistic, this mountain has probably been a long-term boneyard of adventurers and wanderers alike through history. There is a reported 310 deaths in record, attributed to avalanches, falls, serac collapse, exposure, frostbite, or just health problems related to the conditions on the mountains. Not all bodies have been located, however, so details on those deaths are not always available. There are multiple expeditions that are large groups that have sadly met their ends on Everest. Number 9 is Gold Rush. The Lost Dutchman's gold mine has long since been a focal point of folklore, but for the driven explorer, this gold mine could be anything but a story. According to its legend, in the 19th century, a German man discovered a large gold mine in the Superstition Mountains. It's not until he's on his deathbed in 1981 that he told anyone what he'd found and how he'd been able to live so prosperously for most of his life. And in his weakened state, he drew a very vague map to the supposed money lode. In September of 1982, the Arizona Enterprise went in search of the mine but were never able to locate it. The map and copies were sold eventually for only $7 a piece, and now it's anyone's game. There are several fascinating versions of the legend of the Lost Dutchman's gold mine that have been put forth, and the above story is the most popular version of them all. Multiple people since have lost their lives trying to find this gold mine. In 1934, Adam Stewart died of unknown causes, and in December of 1936, another life was claimed by the mountain when hobbyist Roman O'Hall died from the fall while searching for the Lost Dutchman gold. Number 8 is first of many triangles to come in this video. It's the Bennington Triangle. This triangle is on land and located in the southwestern area of Vermont. This spot is known for its notorious vanishings and cold cases. From 1945 to 1950, 5 people have vanished in this area, essentially one for every year. See, you could pass it off as a serial, but people who vanish range extremely in their ages, ethnicity, and gender. From an married to a 74-year-old woman. There's not enough for it to be a preferential serial, that's for sure, but there's still no evidence. So, what could it be? To this day, there's no definite explanation for why those who go exploring or traveling through this region go missing, and no evidence to point authorities as to how, why, or where they even went. Number 7 means putting on the parka, because we're gonna go see Santa Claus in Antarctica. It's the edge of the world. Dark, cold, bleak, and nothing for miles. While it may not seem objectively scary, the harsh reality of Antarctica is desolate and full of bodies. Because even with all of our technology and what we know of the dangers of Antarctica, let alone any other frozen climate, it can remain deadly for anyone who goes there even with the perfect plan and preparedness. On the inland alone, temperatures can plummet to nearly negative 130 Fahrenheit, and in some places wind can reach 200 miles per hour. As a result of many expeditions, scientists and explorers have perished here. Their bodies remain and are often beyond retrieval, buried so deep into ice sheets or crevices that they'll never emerge, or out at sea within glaciers and the calving ice. The oldest bones discovered in Antarctica are reportedly from 1918, and they were discovered in the 1980s. Chilean researchers found that they belonged to a woman who died when she was about 21 years old. She was an indigenous person from southern Chile, which is 620 miles away from Antarctica, and there's no explanation how they got there. Number 6 is another triangle, the Michigan Triangle. Lake Superior and the Great Lakes are known for having many disappearances in, around, and over them. It's safe to say that they're a hot spot for the vanished, and much of that is due to the stories of gold, oil, or just nature lovers traveling out onto the land. Lake Michigan has a triangle formation that extends between the state of Michigan and its neighbor, Wisconsin, and it's gained a reputation for disappearances. One of the most famous was in 1950 when the Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 2501 flew over the area and just never emerged from it. All 58 passengers and crew vanished without a trace. The vast majority of the eerie situations that people reference from Lake Michigan Triangle have occurred between 1850 and 1950, with a few more modern incidents to consider. However, the first reported happening took place in 1679 when a trade ship, Le Griffon, vanished from the Michigan waters. Another ship, the Thomas Hume, also disappeared in a similar fashion. Lake Michigan has taken as many as 6 ships documented, but the most peculiar story actually isn't even a death, though rather a Michigan college student who went missing near the lake while cross-country skiing, only to be found a year later 700 miles away with no memory of the event or his previous life. Number 5 is more water. It's the Sargasso Sea. Ghost ship time. I know you guys are waiting for one of those. Part of the Atlantic Ocean, Sargasso is a pathway for the famous Mary Celeste ghost ship, which was found empty and floating in 1872. Another ship came across the Mary and tried to signal to communicate with the ship but got no response. As they drew closer, it became evident that something is wrong as the sails of the ship were torn to shreds and the ship's compass was broken, and on the sides, someone had made a danger sign with an axe. Mary Celeste had actually left a week earlier than the ship that had found her, and its captain, David Morehouse, had known the captain of the Celeste personally. So his crew made the decision to board, and they found no soul on her. At the same time, the cargo, which was valuable liquor that was being transported on the ship, also was untouched, as was the cabins and the deck. Whatever happened though, it wasn't the first or last time. Sargasso is known for having empty adrift boats. Another in 1840, the French merchant ship Rosalie, was discovered with its sails set, but without any crew members on board. Other ships include the American schooner Ellen Austin and the Connemara. Number 4, you guessed it, another triangle. The Pecos Triangle. Now, this is another land one, this time located in San Miguel County in New Mexico. Pecos is a village just outside of Santa Fe and in the dead center of some of the state's most scenic and popular terrain. The Santa Fe National Forest paired with Pecos' expansive wilderness has made itself known for something other than nature: disappearances. This region is popular for fishing, hiking, and camping, but it seems that many of these weekend excursions and outdoor adventures are destined for a one-way trip, as there's been a documented 5 disappearances, but countless are presumed to be lost in this area. Emma Tresps, Audrey Kaplan, and Melvin Nadell are all well-known examples. Melvin, 61, was a fit gym owner who disappeared in 2009 while out camping with friends. His Jeep was found parked by their site, but Mel was never found. 10 years his senior, Emma Tresps, vanished in 1998 on a trip to a monastery that she had done several times. She was confident and knew the area, but she too vanished with only her vehicle to be found. It's also worth noting that the Pecos area is often location of UFO reports, as well as sightings of mysterious dancing lights in the woods and sudden flashes of brilliant light that seems to have no obvious cause. It's easy to see that this is not an area to explore in, as disappearances are not during a particular hour, age, gender, day, season. There's nothing. Lines are off. Number 3 is our last triangle, I promise. It's Lop Nur. It's Asia's Devil Triangle. Lop Nur has a few nicknames even aside from that one, another being the Wandering Sea. Why? Because it's believed that Lake Lop Nur shifted location north and south over a cycle of 1500 years. It's a former saline lake and now a salt-encrusted lake bed. It lies within the Tarim Basin and was the second largest inland lake in China and an important station on the Silk Road. In the latter half of the 19th century, the Lop Desert attracted many of the world's great explorers seeking to discover more about this vast geographic blank spot on the map. Solving the mystery of where the lake would be located would be a significant geographic discovery, and of course many perished in their attempt before it was found. Lop Nur is known as a dangerous area for its strong winds, dry weather, hot temperatures during the day, and extremely low temperatures during the night. Many have lost their lives to avalanches of sand or sandstorms. In 1980, China's most beloved adventurer Peng Xiaomu vanished while revisiting Lop Nur. He had left a note saying he was gonna go find some water, but Peng was never seen again and seemingly had vanished from camp. The Chinese government launched a massive search of the desert looking for him, but there was no sign of him ever found. According to those familiar with the dangers of Lop Nur, the famed biologist was most likely buried alive by a freak sandstorm or crushed in an avalanche of loose soil. As many as 6 skeletons have been recovered from Lop Nur since his disappearance, but none of them have been identified as Peng. Number 2 is spooky and scary for sure. It's Hoia Baciu. I've actually gotten to see this forest in person, and even from the passenger seat of a car, you can feel something just isn't right. Fenced off, this is considered the world's most haunted forest, and it's located in Romania. Hundreds of disappearances have occurred alongside ghost sightings, UFO appearances, and bizarre sounds, smells, and winds coming from these woods. What makes this forest so dangerous for explorers is how undocumented it is. No one has truly gone deep into these woods and studied the land and environment. No full or detailed map exists of Baciu, so when it comes time for a search and rescue, the government and police forces will only go so far into the woods before it becomes too dangerous of losing more people. Romania already doesn't have the best cell and phone signal, and in some rural areas there's none at all, so even a walkie-talkie is capable of losing connection. Those who have passed through the forest without being zapped into another realm have reported rashes, nausea, and feelings of anxiety. Due to the sheer amount of locals, tourists, and explorers having gone missing over the decades, the Romanian government has made the decision to close off much of this forest from public access to prevent more loss of life. Some ghost hunting TV shows have earned special access, however. Guys, I'm a liar because number 1 is actually technically our final triangle. It's the Alaskan Triangle. I just wanted to trick you. More people have disappeared in the Alaskan Triangle than anywhere else. This can be contributed, of course, to the sheer size of Alaska being twice the size of Texas. Naturally, the landscape, as we know, is inhospitable, and very few people actually inhabit the region. The interest in the Alaskan Triangle began when House Majority Leader Hale Boggs' private craft seemingly vanished into thin air while flying over top. It caused the nation's largest search and rescue mission, but showed up nothing, even with 50 civilian planes and 40 military crafts coming in high and low. It's almost understandable, as it is a vast expanse of forest, mountain, lakes, and blank ice terrain. While it's not a surprise it'd be easy for people to go missing in the environment, what's shocking though is the amount of people. As previously stated, more people go missing here than anywhere else, usually without a shred of evidence and no body ever found. You ready for this? More than 16,000 people, including airline passengers and hikers, locals, and tourists, have disappeared within the Alaskan Triangle since 1988. The rate per 1,000 people is more than twice the national missing persons average, and the rate of people who are never found is even higher. It's no debate that the numbers imply something else is happening here than merely getting lost in the mountains, but yet explorers still plunge themselves deep into the Alaskan wilderness in search of rumored treasure or historic artifacts.